Welcome to the Behind the Glasses podcast. This is the podcast where we share our journey of running Glamour Glasses. Join us as we share our successes and challenges and provide valuable insight for other entrepreneurs. Hello and welcome to the Behind the Glasses podcast. Today we've got a special episode for you, slightly somber episode. This is episode 8 of our podcast, our long form video. And I'm your host, Stefan Smirnic. With me today is, of course, my lovely co-host, Vivian Velasco. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Very well, thank you. So the topic for today's podcast is going to be how we nearly broke up.
Yeah.
Which is a pretty crazy thing that we're filming a podcast about. But we want to be transparent with you guys, and I think it's important to share and take learnings from these parts of our journey that are probably less exciting than most.
Yeah. It's part of the journey, isn't it?
It is, and I think it's relevant for people, in business relationships, in relationships in general, and I think it happens more often than we'd like to admit. So we really want to discuss this topic about us being in a relationship, about us having
Running
a business,
together.
having a business together, and how we manage both sides of it, because I think it's really interesting. Before we get started, I just wanted to say, if you guys like our new setup, please let us know. I've spent a bunch of money buying some microphone stands and pop filters and all of this, so we hope the quality is fantastic. Really do hope so. Let us know what you think.
Yeah.
I think it's awesome.
How long has it taken us to set this up today?
A while. Definitely a while. Look, I would love to make a video about this setup if anyone's interested. It's not too expensive. It's not cheap either. But we're not talking thousands of dollars here at all. But look, it's pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it.
Looks pretty professional.
We'll see how post-processing Stefan, post-production Stefan feels about this setup.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that was a bit to lighten the mood. Talking about our relationship. So a couple weeks ago, we had a bit of a situation where, I said something and it really set us off into a spiral.
Yeah.
And I think to start the story off, maybe Vivian, you should tell it from your perspective and how things went down.
Wow. Okay. So I think the main thing I want to talk here about is the triggering side of things, because you said something to me that triggered me in a way that I couldn't really control my emotions. And after when we talked about it and all of that, you mentioned something important, that is that you don't want to feel like you're walking on eggshells, right? Like you don't want to feel like if you say something, it will trigger me, or you need to be thinking about what's going to trigger me before you say it, because you're basically walking on eggshells around me. And that made me think about the triggering side of things, because when I was in the mood and upset and all of that, I didn't care about like what you said and stuff. I was caring about how that made me feel. And I was internally processing how that made me feel and why I was so upset with you. But I didn't think about like how I could have communicated and controlled my emotions in a way that didn't come as I'm attacking you because of how you just made me feel. Because then I'm basically doing the same thing to you that just made me upset. So that kind of paints a picture, I think, of what happened. There was a conversation, I got triggered. It kind of like spiraled out of control because I couldn't control my emotions. And then it took us a while to talk about what happened, because we both have very different styles of communications as well and how we want to solve a problem. I'm a very I like to speak things out straight away, try to get to the bottom of it on the same night, and like not go to bed upset. That's like how I like to solve problems. Whereas you like to take your time, you like to take your own space, your own time of silence, time of reflection. To me, sometimes it feels like it's a bit too long, because you can take days, you can take weeks. I don't think we've ever gotten to that point, but you can take days to reflect. And sometimes I feel like you might not care enough about the relationship because you just want to take that space out. So that time also helped me reflect about the trigger side of things. I think ultimately that's That was my point.
Straight into the deep end there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think I can definitely agree with you. One of the main things that came out of that whole discussion was that, I don't want to feel like when I say something that might not align or may trigger you in some way that it just spirals out of control straight away. So that's probably the first thing to address.
Yeah.
And I think the way that we are addressing that now moving forward and having discussed this in detail and how we're going to manage our relationship moving forward is that, you know, one thing is how you say things, and another thing is as well is how you react to them. So I think the fault lies on both of us. Me for how I said what I said, and for you in terms of how your emotional reaction was your primary um, defense mechanism, rather than trying to process and understand what my perspective was. Even though you could argue that maybe there was no kind of gray area to kind of see the perspective from a different light, because in that moment you weren't seeing it that way, right?
No, I was just like, he attacked me and I'm gonna attack back. That was basically my
Yeah.
reaction.
And I think that's the problem is as soon as emotions escalate into an argument or a discussion, at least for me, I feel like I want to take a step back from the situation, which is why I like to have a break. This goes across the board probably with like friends and family and obviously with our relationship. If something gets really heated and it's a pretty serious argument or situation, for me, I like to just kind of step back and probably not communicate to the person for a while I process things and then sit down and talk to them about what happened. I'm someone that really doesn't like drama. So that's like my main goal in any relationship. If a relationship brings me drama or some sort of, uh, conflict every time I interact with that person, that's something that I tend to avoid like the plague. Like I
Mm.
seriously do not like that. So I think the bottom that we got to is that it's about compromise, right? It's about when I say something that triggers you, your compromise is recognizing your emotions and your feelings and how you should and shouldn't react to something or expressing them in a way that isn't, explosive, that just escalates the situation to a point at which there's no turning back from, right? Things are said, you know, actions are done that have made it worse, basically.
Yeah.
And then on the flip side, it's also how I approach it and how, I actually try to mitigate the situation and be more communicative because obviously you're someone that doesn't like that distance, that doesn't like me just kind of going off and not talking to you for a while. So I think both of us have to compromise on how we interact in those situations there.
Exactly.
And I think it's going to be interesting, looking forwards in our business because obviously this was a tough situation, but it was benevolent in the sense that it wasn't an action or something that had an outcome, right? It was just kind of like a spur of the moment, um, you know,
Spur of the moment.
it was just a spur of the moment kind of emotional turmoil.
Yeah.
It wasn't something where we had to make a decision and we thought about it and then there was an actual outcome in the sense that, there was a decision that needed to be made.
Hmm.
But looking forwards into our business, I mean, we're going to have some tough decisions to make.
I think if we talk about this in the business sense, it's important that because working together can also bring triggers. Like we have to, do strategies together. We have to check each other's work. We have to critique each other's work as well. And sometimes it gets hard to not take those things personally and feel attacked in some other ways. And we've had this discussion before on the working perspective that you always try to tell me I'm criticizing this, I'm not criticizing you, try to make it less personal to me as your partner and to the work that I'm showing you that I want you to review. So I think it's very important that we talk about this in the relationship perspective but also business perspective as well because it has so much interconnection.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think it's important that you view them one as the same, but also separately.
Yeah.
So, this is talking about, our relationship as business partners and our relationship as a romantic relationship. I think the fact that we're mixing the two means
Makes it tricky.
there's no real, line that you can draw that says, all right, this is relationship, this is business. And that's a challenge. And I really admire, people like Alex Hormozi and Leila Hormozi that work and have a massive business, but work really well together. And they spend all their waking hours working together on what they can. And I think one of the ways they do that is differentiate responsibilities within the business. Because obviously, if they're both working on the same topic or in the same section of the business or the same task, whatever, that means that they're going to have, they're going to butt heads
Mhm.
and they're going to have conflicts trying to make decisions or move things along within that particular area that they're working within. So they have separate tasks, separate duties, separate roles and responsibilities. And I think that's what we've done.
Yep.
Obviously, the way that we delineate it, for anyone that's wondering, is Vivian is more of the marketing side of things, social media, branding, making sure all of our colors and palettes and everything is up to scratch.
Mhm.
That includes packaging, anything with like graphic design as
Yeah.
well.
And customer service.
Customer service, of course, reaching out to influencers, organizing photo shoots, kind of like the project manager slash marketing person of the business. And my role is more so logistics, finance, packing orders, sending orders, tracking our expenses, tracking our income, etc., updating the website, and those sort of tasks. Editing a podcast.
Now that's taking a long time as well.
Oh man, it's a fair bit of effort. Like,
Yeah.
it's definitely not low effort.
Yeah. Yeah.
To put it one way.
We should we thought that this was gonna be like a side thing that we could do on the side of our business that's already a side business from our jobs. And it's taking almost the same time.
It is,
If
but I
not
think
more.
there's a lot of benefits out of it. I mean, I really want to solidify what we learn in
Mhm.
our experiences, like this whole situation that we had.
Yeah.
And obviously, that's one of the bad things, but obviously, the good and the things that we can improve on and share that as valuable insight for other entrepreneurs that are starting out, that aren't, listening to multi-million dollar entrepreneurs that have like crazy big businesses and the rest of it. We're
Mhm.
just like two average Joe Blows that are just running an e-commerce and working full time at the same time,
Yep.
which I think is really cool. And I really like that we have all this equipment now and all these lights and everything. So I'm really enjoying the process.
Yeah.
It's about enjoying the process.
Yeah, I think that's a thing. Enjoying the process and recording the process. Like
Yeah.
I would love to go back, in a few years' time and hear where we were and be proud that we persisted. Because I
Yeah.
think all it takes is action, isn't it?
Mm.
Like we're just taking action now and everyone starts from zero. So here we
That's
are.
it. And I think this brings up an interesting point to tie it back to our main topic about, us nearly breaking up. When we are both on the same page in terms of what we want and where we want to go personally, professionally, with our business, etc., it means that, you can put things into perspective. So if you have a fight about something, it's easy to get carried away and take it in a sense that, this is our whole relationship on ice, we're definitely not going to recover from this, etc. But if you put it in the perspective that this is just a small bump in a very long road
Mhm.
that we're both traveling along together, I think that's what makes it easier for me to process these sort of emotions and these sort of situations. Because obviously we've had fights before. We're not a perfect couple by any means.
Yeah.
By any means. And there's a lot of challenges and dynamics that we have to go through now being in a relationship and doing business together. But I think that's one of the things that we solidified as an outcome from this whole situation is, are we on the same page with where we want to go? And that was one of the questions I asked you.
Yeah.
I mean, after we chatted about what had happened and after we had the big fight and cooled off for a couple of days, we sat down and we talked about the fact that, like, you know, I don't want to keep this going on long term. I don't want to look, I don't want this to be something that actually does break us up. Because that really was a question that was on our minds, is like, is this kind of too much? But the answer really wasn't straightforward because, like I said, if we're on the same page and going in the same direction, then you view it as a small bump.
Mhm.
But if this is just a symptom of a constant clashing of personalities, of a constant clashing of, our egos and our different ideas and criticisms and all these like microaggressions and micro, you know, things that piss the other person off, if that's just a symptom of all of that, then it's definitely time to just call it quits and look, cut our losses, say goodbye to the podcast, say goodbye to the business and go our separate ways.
Yeah.
And that's really what I reflected on the most, I think, for me, because I thought about it in the sense that it shouldn't be that big of a deal, but it was. But if you think about it, and if we put it into the perspective of this long, you know, million-mile road, then it's a very small bump. And we're not going to worry about it in 1 year, definitely not in 3 years, and no freaking way in 10 years.
Exactly.
It's all about perspective. It's all about putting these sort of situations into perspective.
And I think as a couple, and as a romantic couple, but also as a business relationship, we should have like these conversations fairly regularly. We should know that we are in the same place. We should have the conversation of how are you feeling? Do you feel okay with where we are going? Do you want to change the plan? Do you feel like we should be switching to something else? Like, is there something that's not making you really, value what we're doing, or it's making you a bit unsure, uncertain, whatever? We should be having this conversation way more often. I would say weekly if we could, just to make sure that we're staying in the same page constantly, and we're not going, slightly on different path, and then suddenly we have these type of conversations that just go boom.
Yeah.
And then we go back, okay, let's talk about this again, and let's go back to the same page.
Yeah, and I think that's important to recognize that as much as we don't like to admit it, there was tension in our relationship prior to that moment.
Oh
So-
yeah, it was a ticking bomb. It was
Yeah.
something very small would have triggered the bomb, because the conversation was long overdue. We talk about
Yeah.
daily business stuff, we talk about daily relationship stuff, but not that regularly we talk about the deep stuff.
Yeah.
And I think if we can get an action from this podcast is to make sure that we have these conversations often.
And what is that deep stuff? Like, if you had to give advice to someone about how to mitigate these situations, I don't know if someone out there is working with a partner or has a business partner that they're not romantically involved with and has tensions building. How do you approach that conversation? How do you, bring it up? What do you ask? How do you deal with it?
Yeah, I think you could start by just having a regular conversation, but getting into the depth of it. So how are you feeling? Where do you want to be? Do you still want to be in X place, or do you want to go somewhere else? How are your goals aligning with you at the moment? Asking those genuine questions to the person that's sitting next to you. If it's your business partner and you have that type of relationship, like, how are you feeling? How are things at home? How is your physical health and your mental health? How is there anything that I can do to help? Like, going through asking those questions will unpack a lot of things that, if there's tension being built, you can release a bit of that by just opening up to the person that, and if you see that there's tension building up, I wouldn't suggest anyone waiting for the bomb to explode. I would say have those conversations. As soon as you start feeling that friction, go on and ask a question. Ask the genuine question about what you're worried about and how you can move forward.
It's a difficult thing to do, though.
It is.
It's a very difficult thing to do.
It is.
And I think, we probably don't do it enough, like you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
We need to do it more.
I don't think we do it enough. I'm happy to do it as often as we could, because I feel like I'm an open book. But I know that your personality is a bit different. You like to have those conversations when you were sitting down in a comfortable chair and having a few drinks and being like very laid down, and you want to have that conversation in like a place and time where you're prepared to have that conversation. Whereas I can kind of have it in the shower or in the toilet. Like, I don't really care.
I think there's a lot of things to unpack here, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think one thing that you raise is how differently we operate.
Yeah.
But just going back to what you said about having these conversations with someone, I think one thing that we've implemented that I learned a while ago about dealing with, conflicts and personal dynamics is when you're talking to someone and you want to provide your perspective on a difficult topic, whatever it is. I think, and especially if you were hurt or if you think the other person has been hurt, I think the most important way to approach it is to use the word I.
Mm-hmm.
So start every sentence with, I think that you acted in a way that I didn't like. Or I think that what you said was really hurtful and, I interpreted it in this way, whatever. Because if you start the conversation or talk about it in a you did this and you did that, and why would you do this? It becomes much more of a confronting. That's not the word I'm looking for, but it doesn't become
It comes as an attack.
It comes as an attack. It's more of like you bring up the other person's defenses because now you're saying something that directly relates to what they did. Whereas in their mind, they think they did something else.
Mm-hmm.
But if you say, I feel like you did it like this, I feel like you did it like that, then you frame it in a way that's like, look, you take their sense of self, their sense of ego out of it. Because it's no longer about what exactly they did or what exactly happened. It's about how one person received it versus another person receiving it.
Yeah.
And usually that actually uncovers the problem a lot quicker than if you just start discussing the facts or trying to figure out exactly what happened. That'll just get you in an argument.
Yeah, and it's an argument after because you would say, yes, I did that, no, you didn't, and so on. And yes, everyone has their own truth, and that's when it becomes a real argument. Another thing that I will add to that's a really good point of, starting with I, and just talk about how you're internally processing and understanding the situation. But if I've learned anything from you, is that first, before I start telling you how I felt, I would also start with acknowledging what I think I did as well. Just like in a way that I can calm your defenses a little bit too and say, I am sorry about this. Like, I don't think I acted in the best way when I did this and I said that. But I also feel like, this happened as well. That made these feelings. And I feel like just by starting with you acknowledging your own mistakes, you also calm those defenses, because I'm not saying you are the person that did everything wrong. I believe I did something wrong as well, and I could fix it.
100%. I think that was very well said, because a lot about managing these situations is about managing each other's egos.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what you said is 100% true. If you approach the situation with, hey, mate, I'm sorry. I'm genuinely sorry. I didn't want it to get this far. I didn't want, you to have that reaction or me to do this thing, whatever. Then you frame the conversation in a way that's friendlier, that's trying to find a resolution, rather than framing it in a combative sense. That was the word I was looking for. In a combative sense where, you're just trying to blow up each other's egos and see who's going to, crush the other's soul with facts, and it's just gonna go to shit if you do that. So I think what you said is 100% correct. Like, and that's the hardest part, is saying sorry first. I think you've become really good at it. I think I still have a long way to go. My ego is probably
I think I went
slightly more bruised.
I was the same. Like, I could never, not even say I'm sorry. I couldn't even acknowledge that I was sorry. Like,
Really?
deep inside, in previous relationships, like, I couldn't even admit that I was sorry about something. Even if halfway through the argument, I realized that I did the thing wrong, my ego would be so high that I wouldn't even acknowledge it. So, but I think I heard a podcast, and I think I mentioned it to you the other day, that it said something along the lines of, why does it take so much effort to say I'm sorry to someone when you've truly felt like you've hurt them, right? And the guy that was being interviewed, he said, it depends on how you see being sorry. Do you see that as a weakness or as a strength?
That's a great way to frame it.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
And when I heard about it, because I internally always felt like that was a weakness, I was, confirming my defeat. And my ego was so big that I would never confirm my defeat. I would always try to keep fighting it. But I reframed it in I'm actually being very strong. I'm admitting that I've done something wrong. And that's awesome.
It is awesome. It's crazy. A lot of people talk about turning your weaknesses into strengths, about your insecurities. I have like a a funny neck, or my posture is terrible for me personally, and my ears are big. Oh, boo hoo.
Hmm.
You try to frame that into a weakness. I was watching a video about a guy that had a stutter and how he like transformed his stutter into his strength, and I thought that was awesome. And now he stutters way less. But I think it's very difficult, and people don't think about that in terms of saying sorry, in terms of being the one that's vulnerable. Being vulnerable is a strength. I 100% agree with you.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
I commend you for being so vulnerable. Definitely. So I think that was a great discussion about that topic. And I think so that was kind of what happened, and
Yeah.
we've discussed how we approached it. So what was the outcome? I think the first thing that I would bring up from my perspective from the outcome is that we have realigned ourselves in terms of where we're heading. We sat down, we thought about what it is exactly we're trying to achieve together. Are we in this for the long haul? Because I mean, I don't need to beat on this topic too much, but doing a podcast, working full time, being in a romantic relationship, and running a business obviously is a lot of effort.
And trying to stay like active, keep our physical
Go to the
health, keep our
gym
social
4 or
life.
5 times a week. Yeah, look, it's definitely a struggle, and we need to be able to support each other. And I think so. One of the things that we did was make sure that we've set out what the path is, where we're going.
Mhm.
Another thing is discussing our expectations. So we literally wrote down a list of all the expectations that we have from both perspectives. It wasn't just like, here's my expectations for you, take it or leave it, and vice versa. It was a collaborative effort in terms of what do we expect of the other person when we are
Working.
input statement here, like
Yeah.
when we are, basically doing anything. Because people talk about like setting boundaries, and I think that is a valid approach as well. But the way that we approached it was by setting expectations. So when we're working on the business, what is the expectation? What days are we going to be doing this? What days are we going to be doing that? What's the expectation for when we have a fight? What's the expectation for dealing with conflicts and talking about, situations that are tough? And one of the expectations I know that we had was, being more encouraging of each other. Because I think in business, at least, I'm definitely a perfectionist. I've definitely gotten better. I used to be much worse, but I can be very critical of people's work generally, full stop, not to mention yours. And because we spend so much time together and do so much work together, I'm there by circumstance critical of you fairly often. And I think we don't show each other enough appreciation. At least I don't show you enough appreciation. I can definitely admit that.
Yeah, no, likewise. I feel like we're both so deep into our work sometimes
Mm,
that we just want to get things done. It's out, it's done and dusted, and we never take that time to say like, I actually think you did a great job on this. Like
yeah.
really acknowledging, because I feel like even at our work, like we love when our managers say, comment us for something. I think you handled that very well, and I think you did a great job in that. And I feel like we spend so much time together, and we're always on the go that we kind of forget to say that to each other. And
Yeah.
I think that's super important. That builds the team, builds the mood up. Like, if I know I'm doing something well in your eyes, I probably want to keep doing it, and I want to do it even better. And that just builds up that quality that we put
Mm,
out.
definitely. And I think it's important that we relate and explain to each other how the task that we've assigned to each other, usually it's me assigning it to you, because I'm more like the big picture thinking kind of guy. But I know that for you, sometimes I say something or suggest that we do something, or suggest that you do something, and you're reluctant, or you kind of don't know, or don't really put your heart and soul into it. And I think the problem with that is, and something that I've learned is, in managing a team, it's really important for the other person, for the people that you're working with as a leader, because we're both leaders in this situation. So it's important for both of us to do this, is to highlight how the task and how the thing that they're working on is important, and how it delivers and is going to help drive the whole project, the whole mission forward, so that they can see the big picture. So it's not just
Yeah.
like, oh, I need to sit here and do this spreadsheet for 3 days. It's like, no, this spreadsheet is going to feed into, this model, and then this model is going to be pricing for this. And then, whatever the situation may be, it's really important to explain that to the other person.
Yeah.
For us to do it to each other,
Exactly.
at least in our relationship. And I think also, as professionals, moving into our later career stages, hopefully we get more leadership opportunities and more senior roles in terms of managing teams. I think that's a really important aspect to keep in mind.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the expectation thing was good as well, because I think a lot of the anxiety that I sometimes get when we have these arguments comes from the fact that I am very like in the unknown. Like I don't really know what's gonna happen next. I don't really know when are we gonna be talking again, and that just builds up that anxiety and uncertainty about us, about our business, about like everything, because we're just on standby until we want to have the conversation again. So I think it's good to have those expectations like, okay, we're going to take this long to figure things out and to have that moment of silence. And we are going to keep working on the business, even if we are not happy with each other. Like, because we tend to like stop working on the business when we, when we start like having arguments, because like, oh yeah, fuck this. So yeah, those expectations were absolutely critical to have, and also the deep conversations as well of how we're feeling, how we're traveling. Do we still want to get there? Do we still have the same goals? Do we want to change anything? All of that is very important.
And we've decided that we're committing to this, right?
We're committing to this, and I think a good thing is that we have a holiday coming up. So we have a holiday in 5 weeks. I'm counting down the days, and it just gives me that like that little bit of extra power that if I commit to this for 4 more weeks, it's literally 4 more weeks that I give it absolutely everything I have. We can get to a point, where we're gonna be a bit more prepared for what's next coming this year and stuff like that. So yeah, just that kind of gives me that motivation. But we're both on the same page that no, we are committing. We're ditching the excuses that we have, in the morning when we don't feel like waking up. We like waking up and stuff like that. And I think we've been doing a bit better this week since we established those expectations, and since we said, it's only until we go to Mexico, then we have a holiday, so we can do this.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I think it's important for people to manage their motivation triggers, because for me, a vacation is not motivating. If anything, it's a bit frustrating because it's like, man, I'm going on vacation. I still have so much to do.
Yeah.
But also, it's accepting that this is going to be a great trip and not trying to feel guilty about it. So for me, what motivates me is like completing the little things, completing the tasks that I know is working on the business rather than in the business.
Yeah.
Moving us forward in everything that we're doing. Even if it's the podcast, even if it's some simple document for the business or whatever it is. I think that for me is really motivating. So
Yeah. And that's why time blocking is working so well.
time blocking, yeah. So I think we can probably discuss now. Before I go on to that point, is there anything else that you want to add with regards to our whole debacle?
Well, the only thing I want to add on this topic is about the trigger side of things, because as a person, like, I got triggered and that felt really bad. But I know that I'm not the only person that gets triggered on maybe to other people what it sounds like little things. So I just want to share a bit of a conversation that I had with my mom on this topic, because it was very insightful. And it was around how triggers are something that you're giving it importance, and that's why it's triggering you, because it holds some sort of, it could be trauma, or it could be some sort of importance that you are giving it to that topic. And even though you're my partner and you could be aware that that's a sensitive topic for me, it shouldn't be a reason for me to expect that you are never going to talk about it. And I think the conversation I had with my mom is I need to heal those triggers and traumas and stuff myself. And I have to take responsibility that I can't get upset at you if you trigger me. I need to work on my own traumas and triggers. And of course, I can communicate with you how I'm going. But I think, yeah, it's important to recognize that, to work on yourself, to journal, to talk to people, talk to friends, talk to family, try to heal that from within. before you expect the next person to not trigger you. Because I've seen like a lot of like examples on social media where, and this might be a hot topic, but like a lot of people on social media where, you know, they announce a pregnancy and women that can't have children get triggered. It's like, okay, what? I'm like never gonna share a happy moment because it's gonna trigger you. Like how much are we, you know, blaming the other person for what they're saying instead of blaming ourselves for how that's making us feel and making us react like.
Yeah, I think that social media is an amplification of people's insecurities.
Yeah. But have
many
you
degrees.
seen the whole thing about like trigger warnings coming everywhere?
No,
When a video content creator or something, they are talking about a sensitive topic and they go,
I think we
trigger
watch
warning.
different
Yeah, well,
content creators.
Yeah, we probably do. But I listen to that more and more. Like in the last couple of years, I've been listening more about trigger warning. You know, we're going to be talking about drugs and stuff. And trigger warning, we're going to talk about mental health. And trigger warning, we're going to talk about this and that.
Sounds like a bit of a buzzword.
It's a bit of a buzzword, but people are expecting those trigger warnings now because it's like, oh, well, if I don't want to listen to this, I skip it. Instead of, no, we can talk about these things and you should be working on your traumas and how that's making you feel. I think we should take that responsibility ourselves.
Yeah, and from the perspective of our podcast, absolutely we are never giving trigger warnings. I'm triggering all you people listening to this. I don't give a shit. This is raw and unfiltered. I'm not gonna sit here and put up a warning. The next sentence might be controversial. Like
yeah, exactly. But
come on.
That's exactly how I never want you to feel like around me.
Okay, well, yeah. So I was making a joke, but in terms of our relationship, yeah, no, I think that's a very valid point. I think, you know, it's important to. There's a lot of ways you can kind of interpret this. If you're someone that's sensitive and has, you know, these sort of reactions to content, yeah, then by all means watch people that give you trigger warnings. That's not us, clearly. And, you know, I think it's important to work on yourself and have that introspective side of things to see, hey, why did I get so fired up watching this video? Like it's just a video about whatever it is. I think that's really important. But in terms of like managing our relationship, it's very important that we don't feel like, you know, we say things or do things that trigger each other. And I think what you said before really figures that out, right? When you are in a relationship with anyone, be it your parents, be it your spouse, girlfriend, whatever, siblings, business partners, you're always going to reach certain levels of that relationship that you haven't experienced before. And the real issue with that, or the real problem in managing that, is figuring out what it is exactly that the other person is sensitive to and what you're sensitive to and how that dynamic is going to work and how that's going to play out. Because it always happens. I mean, there's always, you know, situations, even I've experienced it, where friends become business partners and then business goes bad and then friendship over. I mean, it sucks to say, but it's really part of that kind of, you know, figuring out exactly how you're going to work in this relationship and figuring out exactly, remembering why you value the other person and trying to put the reason for which you're doing this in the first place at the forefront of your mind rather than your emotions or your instant reaction to the certain.
Yeah. And I think early communication is key. Like, I don't know if you can notice my pattern here, but I love to communicate.
Yeah.
And I think like if, you know, you say something that triggers me, I can, in a very loving way, try to explain you that might be a sensitive topic and I'm still working on how that's triggering me. And that's way more productive than, you know, getting mad at you and saying bad things to you. So I think it's not doesn't mean that you shouldn't talk about, you know, your triggers and you should be just keeping it to yourself and working on it on your own, because then why are you even in a relationship? Like you should be able to be open and honest and vulnerable with that person. But I think approaching it in a more sensitive way, like, you know, I don't think I want to have this conversation right now. It's a bit triggering. Like I'm just working on it on my own, and that should probably be enough. Yeah, exactly. I think you have great communication when it comes to that. Like you're very good at telling me, I don't really want to have this conversation right now. I want to sit on it a little bit more.
Yeah, because I think Andrew Huberman talked about this, how we process emotions and thoughts and what happened during the day happens at during sleep, during your deepest cycles of sleep. That's why they say the whole quote, time heals everything,
Hmm.
because you need to give it time. And really what you need to give it is sleep. That's really
Or a workout.
what the science comes down to. I mean, the workout might work for some. For me personally, it just needs like a sleep or two to kind of internalize the situation, recognize its significance, and come up with an action plan of how to solve it. Because it's not going to be something that's never going to be solved ever,
Hmm.
right? At least between you and me, it wasn't, because I didn't want to break up.
Yeah.
So I knew that we were going to figure it out, but I just needed a bit of time to kind of settle down, process everything that happened, recognize how I'm feeling, recognize how you're feeling, and then deal with it from there in.
Hmm.
So that's how I go through things. But yeah, I think you and me are very different, because you just want to talk about it straight away, just talk about it. And I see value in that, but I see a lot of pain in that as well,
Yeah.
because when you talk about it straight away after the situation has happened, at least for me, it's very hard to detach yourself from trying to blame the other person, or your ego is already so inflated or damaged that you can't really get anywhere in the conversation. That's what
Yeah.
I find that I need a bit of time to settle down so that I can be more vulnerable, that I can approach it with my heart in my hand and say, look, let's sort this out. I don't want to, have this in between us anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. I think something that really helped me that night that we have that argument was that I sat down on my journal, like in front of my journal. And obviously my emotions were really high and I wasn't gonna go fall asleep straight away. So I needed to like try to, release that energy and all of that. And something that really helped me was write down in the journal what I could have done better in that situation. And like since it's so hot in my head still because it just happened, I went back and I said, when this happened, I could have done this better. And when this happened here, I should have listened to you instead of interrupting you. And when this happened here, I could have done this and da da da. And it doesn't mean that I'm not, you know, feeling my feelings and all of that stuff, but it means that I'm not letting my head win into what hurt me. The feelings that were hurt and the things that were said. It's more like, okay, this is what happened. I could have done this better and probably would have had a different result. But that also allows me to understand how I could have done things better to you. And then I can communicate to you, look, I do agree that this was a bit much. And I'm sorry for how I reacted and stuff like that. That's kind of, I can realize that and recognize that and then communicate that to you when we're ready to talk.
Hmm,
So if anyone feels like they're it's like your thoughts and your brain is telling you like be mad and be upset and this is done to you, like making yourself feel like a victim in the whole situation. And sometimes you want to run away from those thoughts because you don't want to be feeling like that the whole time and for a long period of time. So I think journaling really really helps to put that thing into perspective. Like it's no longer inside my head, now it's in a paper form and I need to write it and it needs to make sense. So I go in and I write what I could have done better.
nice. Yeah, I also did write in my journal as well after the fact. And I think it does help,
It helps a lot, yeah.
that mental mind muscle connection of writing things down. It really does clarify your thoughts.
Yeah, because sometimes your brain is just throwing things out and they don't even make sense, but you can't really tell the difference. So I think putting it into perspective and yeah, that muscle connection as well. Like I have to figure how I'm gonna write this in a way that makes sense from my head. It just structures out everything and it brings so much clarity. Like I can't
Definitely.
even highlight enough how much journaling brings clarity.
Yep, absolutely. And I think probably the last topic I want to discuss here is how important introspection has been for at least me personally. I think I've grown so much from just sitting down with my thoughts and my experiences and just thinking about why things went a certain way, why I reacted a certain way, where I want to be, how do I want to do things, how do I want to operate, what do I value. I think that's super important and really understated. And there's no real framework that I can provide that's like, oh yeah, this is how you do it. there's nothing that I really learned. It's just about taking the time to be with yourself, your own thoughts, and your own experiences, and just kind of letting your mind do its thing in terms of sorting things out,
Yeah.
organizing where important experiences fall and what the important bits of information are from those experiences and how you're going to leverage those in the future and how you're going to do better based on building on those habits, building on that knowledge that you've got. And also the opposite, when things go bad, why do they go bad? How can I do this better? Is this a reflection of me personally, or was it a outcome of the circumstances, etc.? I think that's super important, and I really want to highlight that importance.
Yeah.
Whether it's in business, whether it's being in a relationship, whether it's dealing with personal conflicts, I think it's really
Well,
key.
Simon Sinek talks a lot about it, like how
Mm.
he doesn't believe in self-development, he believes in self-awareness.
Yeah, I think I honestly believe it's one and the same as well.
Yeah, because he says like, yeah, you can read all the books and listen to all the podcasts and all of that, but if you're
It's
never
the same
aware,
topics in a lot of them. It's just
yeah,
kind of like
it's the same thing.
hey, there's that little stick figure reel that I showed you. It's like reading a self-development book. Here's a page about something you already know. Here's another page about something you already know, right? A lot of self-development books are kind of like that. It's just
Exactly.
stating the bleeding obvious.
But not very frequently we read those books and then we internalize, yeah, I feel like I know this because I've read so many self-development books, but how am I reacting in these situations? How am I following what I just read? How am I recognizing my triggers and my traumas and how I'm dealing with them and all of that? Like that's something that not many people do, and it's the most important part of self-development journey. It's being self-aware.
Yeah. Man, we could make we could keep going this episode for another 3 hours and just discussing, what are the things that we want to improve on in our self-development journey, etc., and our business, etc. But I think it's been pretty good. I think it's been in depth. I think we've really talked about, what the actionable items were that we did to put into place as an outcome from being in a situation where we had a big fight.
Mhm.
And I think the outcome was positive, and I think we have reflected on it and discussed it well. And I think overall it's really strengthened our relationship. So
Definitely. I feel like as much as I hate going through those hard moments and those tough conversations, you know that always there's the other side of the coin where we come out, we're so much stronger because we understand each other a lot more. We appreciate each other a lot more because we just went through a phase where we almost felt like we were gonna lose each other, sorry. So as bad as like I don't wanna be leaving those, moments very often, I do appreciate the silver lining for me. It's that I know that after that I'm just gonna be in a way stronger relationship with you after.
and look, the grass is not always greener on the other side in some circumstances. Because I think sometimes you can think, oh, I should find someone that, is not gonna have these reactions. Like, I'm not gonna lie, that was one of my
Mm.
thoughts. But then I was like, hang on a second. If I put her reactions on a scale of how much I appreciate everything that she's done and everything about her, it's a very small, minor part of it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's not like we're having fights day in, day out. It's not like we're headbutting and in conflict constantly and can't do anything productive together. That's
Mhm.
absolutely not the case. So, for me, just putting everything into perspective, introspection, sitting down and thinking about it makes me realize, look, that's probably not the right outcome. I should, like you said, move through this. We'll get through the silver lining. We'll learn something from it. We'll set up some expectations to better our dynamic of
Yeah.
working together so that we know what the expectations are. We have it written on a piece of paper and, we can use that to say, hey, use that as kind of a discussion point for saying, hey, I don't think you're acting to expectations here. Or, hey, I'm not sure what you're doing is aligning with what we agreed
Mhm.
was the expected action, reaction, whatever, in those certain circumstances. So we can use that as a point to kind of, figure out these issues that we have
Yeah.
rather than get in a situation that's similar again, that we once again have to go through the same thing. So
Yeah. And if you don't work through them, like, yeah, you might go out and try to find another person and that might be great and all of that. But any relationship, first of all, any relationship is going to take really hard work. Like no relationship is absolutely perfect. So you can tell, how big's the problem compared to how much I appreciate this person. That's a great way of making a decision, because you say, okay, this is probably not big enough to make us break up. And then there are other relationships are also going to take work. Like they might not react in certain ways after they're being triggered, but they might react in other ways that also triggers you. So at the end of the day, if you don't work on that yourself as well, you're always going to repeat the patterns, go through the same mistakes, and they're just going to continue to happen because you've never worked on what's really happening within you.
Definitely agree. And I think for me, working together is such a big benefit. Because you could just call it quits and go solo mode, but you genuinely help me have better habits, help me put in the productive hours, help me do the hard yards. You wake me up, we go to the gym together, we work on the business together. I just love doing it with you, and I really appreciate you. So that's probably one of the reasons why why I saw it as such a minor thing.
Yeah.
Even though it wasn't minor in the moment, don't get me wrong, it was heated.
In the moment, such a little thing becomes like super big.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, after some time and reflection, we can always come back down. And I feel the same with you. Like, there's no other person I would rather do this with, and I think we make a great team. And I'm happy that you bring this stuff to me as well. Like you make me very self-aware. The fact that you don't react the same way I do, and you bring that perspective to me. Like, oh, actually, I can have a productive conversation. I can get some space and try to think about things. Like, I love that about you. Like, you teach me so much, make me very uncomfortable in places that I have to really work on that self-awareness for myself as well. And I love that because that's how we're both growing. We don't grow just being comfortable and staying in the same place. We grow by getting out of our comfort zone, having those tough conversations, being self-aware, and working on us.
Amazing. Wow, what a cheesy end to an emotional episode. All right, guys, I think we'll call it here. I think we're going to discuss more business topics in the next episode.
Definitely.
This one was deep and personal, but important. I think that relationships are part of everyone's life. Whether you like it or not, you have a relationship with your family, with your friends, with your partner, with yourself. I think it's a really important topic. I would love to discuss it more. I think it's a big, big part of self-development and your personal journey, personal growth journey. And I think the main outcome for us is that we've realized we're better together, stronger together.
And we're a team.
We are above and beyond everything else a team. And we better each other.
Yeah.
In most ways.
Yeah. Most ways.
I was going to say always, but surely someone might find one way that's worse. I don't know. Well, let's say always for now.
Yeah, okay.
Regardless, anyway, guys, I hope you got a value out of this. Please let us know if you liked it, if you didn't like it, if we bored you to death, or if you found it very insightful. We'd love to hear your feedback. Thank you so much for listening, watching, through your earballs, your eyeballs. Been your host, Stefan Smiljanic, and your lovely co-host, Vivian Velasco. Signing out, guys.
Bye.
Peace.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Behind the Glasses podcast. If you enjoyed it and want more, come connect with us on Instagram at Behind the Glasses podcast, or join our Facebook discussion group at Behind the Glasses community. If you would like to listen to future episodes, please follow us on your favorite platform. And if you're feeling extra giving today, please leave us a review. We'd love to see this community grow and help each other reach our goals.